We had to bring in the CEO of the project, CEO of Emblem Developments. I have him sitting here today. Cash, how are you doing today,
doing well.
my man? Simos, welcome back to the virtual arena.
What's up, baby?
I was telling everybody, I'm not sure if you caught the intro, Simos, that I think they got tired of the good-looking Indian guys, so we brought on the Greek as well.
I like how he speaks so highly of himself. He always speaks so highly of himself.
But hang on, listen, you thought you were going to be the best-dressed person. Obviously, nobody beats out our girl, Laura. Hunter and Callum did a fantastic job, but Cash, you take it all today, my man. Thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are. You're going to be releasing this project. You brought it to our marathoners today. We're very grateful and blessed for your time.
Thank you. It's great to be here. You know, as you said, we're very excited about this project. We think that this is a project that has no compromise in any facet, whether it's the location, the investment opportunity, the quality of finish, the timeless design. So we're looking forward to sharing some of the details that make this project very distinct.
So as I was saying, kind of just before you two gentlemen joined me, we have thousands of people watching right now, and some know and some don't know kind of our process when we pick projects. We get about 50 to 60 at our desk every single year. We only get allowed about 8 to 10 of them. The number one reason, the first thing we look at is the location, because we can't pick up the building and move it.
That's right.
So I think my question to you is, Cash, is why Cooksville in Mississauga? Why did Emblem and why did you decide to go there?
Yeah, look, I mean, when you look at our background and my background specifically, I spent the last 20 years managing risk and finding opportunity in the investment management business. And we've done that successfully for high net worth families over a 2-decade period of time. And so when you do that, you acquire skills and expertise in terms of being able to uncover diamonds in the rough and I uncover opportunities. And really the difference between average and success are those that can see something before it materializes for the masses. And so much of those processes and skills and experience that we've acquired over a 2-decade period of time is transferable to real estate. And so when we started to look at the acquisition targets of sites, really, you know, it's no question or no secret that Toronto over the last 20 years has seen significant population growth. And as a result, we've seen significant housing price growth. When we looked at Mississauga, but specifically Cooksville, we identified a unique opportunity where it was much earlier on in the cycle than other locations, other geographies. And so for us, we started to become excited about the fact that we're able to access this investment at a much earlier stage than where you would see other real estate developments.
And I do want to interject because Cash, what you're referring to right now is absolutely huge. And this is kind of where you separate the men from the boys. In the sense of who's
and the women from the girls.
And the women from the girls.
We got to mix it in, buddy.
Gotta mix it in. But what I'm going to refer to is the site that we're speaking of, Cooksville.
Yep.
So to the people in the GTA who know Mississauga and who know Cooksville, it's one thing. But if you're in Vancouver and you don't know the difference, Cooksville is within a 1 kilometer proximity to Square One.
Yes.
Square One is the most developed. It's at the pinnacle of its cycle, meaning that Oxford, another developer, one of the biggest developers in the country, just
in the commercial space,
just committed to another 14 towers next to Cooksville, who you identified, Cooksville being early in the cycle, meaning that it needs to transition to catch up. This isn't a coincidence that a gentleman, and I do want you to talk about your background for sure, because I've had a few conversations with you in the last week and during our entire due diligence process. And your background is going to say a lot as to why you made that decision. But to every single investor here, when we tell you to buy the smallest house on the street with the big homes, when we tell you to go where you always need to be a step behind the proven track record. Don't be a revolutionary. I'm not asking anybody to go outside their comfort zone.
Right.
But following the smart money.
Right.
Follow the track. If you're looking in the snow and you see somebody went that way, more than likely you're going to be better off going that way.
Well, I love the analogy that Cash used, right? It's the diamond in the rough, where
Yes.
in real estate in the greater Toronto area, there's not many diamonds in the rough left. There is a few, Cooksville being one of those. And we're gonna kind of jump back and forth here, Cash, go from high level about location, high level about your story, then we'll speak about the building as well.
And also market fundamentals.
100%.
Because we can be in Cooksville, we can be in Ottawa, we can be in Montreal. So the site selection process that their firm has chosen to follow, yes, they chose the location that is going to be exactly what they want it to be and envision what they want it to be. And there's a reason for it. It's proximity to the fundamental things, which we all know what they're about. And I let Cash speak to them. Transit and education.
Well, number transit's always, right? If you look at world real estate, guys, I mean, that's where values
I want
go up.
him to speak
For
to
sure.
it because that's, so what I want to do is kind of prep the ground to understand that we're sitting with someone who looks at due diligence 1,000 times more than even we do.
Yeah. Well,
So when we put 100,000 in the market,
yeah,
but somebody puts 100 million in the
it's a
market,
little different.
it's a little different.
Well, and the research team that Cash has at
Correct.
Emblem is
And
a lot
that's
more
what I mean.
intense, right?
And that's what I
and Cash,
mean.
speak about that.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. Yeah, you know, I think our background is to your point, to both of your points, an important part of this, because for 20 years, some of the most successful families in Canada have trusted us to invest their money. Right. And at the most simplest fundamental level.
And what company is that, Cash?
First Avenue.
First
Avenue Investment Council. That's right. So we manage the investment assets of high net worth families. And when you're doing that, and you're doing that not for 1 or 2 years, but for a 20-year period, you build, like I said, a lot of expertise and experience and skills in identifying opportunities and managing risk as well. So for us, having a background in managing assets in the equity markets, in the stock markets, for us to have made a conscious decision to be in the real estate development space, I think before we even talk about Cooksville, it speaks to how much opportunity we see in real estate. And we come from a background of being professional investors. That is what we do. That's what we've built our reputation on. And so we strongly believe that a well-diversified portfolio is not just owning different investment strategies that all go back to the stock market, right? You can look at your investment statement and see 10 different investments, 20 different investments. But if the root of all of them is in the stock market, at the end of the day, they all kind of go up and down at the same time.
Right.
So to achieve true diversification, not emotional, what I mean is not to see 10 or 12 different investments and it feels like you're diversified because there's 4 pages of different
You're
investments.
not in different asset classes.
You're not. So the idea of diversifying and pursuing growth in an asset class that does not behave the same way as the stock market is so important. And what's interesting.
So you're looking for things that are reliant on different dynamic and market forces.
Absolutely. And that approach has been proven by pension funds and billionaire families for many decades, right? So we've really just brought that to very successful families that may not be at billionaire levels, but are looking for diversification outside of just equities. So we took our team, right? And our team has lots of experience from being former investment banking professionals in the real estate group at the large Canadian banks to being heads of construction companies for large developers in Toronto. You know, one of the beautiful things about a 20-year successful business backing Emblem is the fact that we have the financial resources to be able to go out and make sure we don't cut corners on any facet of what we do. And that really starts with the people that we've been able to attract into the firm. And it extends all the way to our capability to be able to build a building without even seeking third-party financing, should we choose to, and everything in between.
So for everybody, I want everybody to understand that and I'm talking about the last sentence that you said, not having to seek third-party financing unless you choose to.
Yeah.
There is not many people in the industry, in the arena of condo building that can say they don't rely on construction financing. When we're talking about construction financing of a 350 unit building, just what kind of money? How much money does it take to build a tower?
Let's just say if you had $100 million ready,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that. So that doesn't even cut it. Even 100 million doesn't cut it. I love it.
In a lot of this audience, this audience is a very unique audience. They are many, I would say hundreds of our clients, I know as a fact, because we're the one transacting them, are well diversified within the real estate asset class, meaning that many of them have invested in passive investment LPGP structures with partners like Equiton, like Graybrook, like different
Western
REITs,
Wealth,
district
REITs,
REITs, different REITs. A lot of them have income properties, so a lot of them are very knowledgeable already and have a deep understanding of the profits involved, of the costs involved, and of the risk involved. And I can speak to, and I'm not going to go down exact case studies, but what I will say is back in 08, 09, when there was a financial slowdown south of the border, which kind of did bounce off us, we came out unscathed, to be honest. Not all of us, but most of us. But during that time, whoever was invested in development, the only problem that they had was they had to stay in longer. So these companies that were well funded and funded by even retail investor putting their money in, they were able to survive the storm because their asset was land. So if the developer, in this case, whichever company they used, all they had to do is hold on a year, 2 years extra, and you came out unscathed. And then by the time of completion, you saw 50 and 60% total returns. There's not many things on this planet that can take you through a storm, a financial storm, not only unscathed, but to be double the man you were when you first started. And that's real estate.
For sure.
So to be sitting amongst people who understand Bay Street and you can carry us into Main Street, that to me is massive. And that to me, like just like you had Hunter on a second ago, Hunter inspires me. He's been in real estate longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, that's actually true, man.
Don't be fooled by his good looks.
But
this is a man who's seen cycles like nobody else.
Exactly.
This is a man who sold more pre-construction, who has built the future,
the
future 30 years ago.
25% of the market share.
No, but when he was talking about the future, the future for us is now. For him, he's seen it all. And for him to sit in this arena, to share his insight with this crowd, to bring this gentleman into our lives, because this is an introduction that came directly from Hunter, and we appreciate it, and we want to have you here. These are the things that matter.
Absolutely.
These are the things that matter.
Being well capitalized is so important, because when things are going well, it doesn't matter as much. It always matters, but it really matters when you hit a bump in the road. Whether it's the housing market slows down, whether it's COVID, whether the banks decide that they don't want to lend as much to developers, right? I mean, we're in an environment now where the banks are really looking at their loan book, right? And they're looking at it saying, should we tighten up the purse strings a little bit? Because they need to make sure that if they have write-downs, they have adequate capital ratios. So being well capitalized is always important. It's especially important when you hit a hiccup in the road. You know, in a few months ago, when we were right in the heart of COVID, let's face it, there was a lot of uncertainty. None of us really knew what would take place in the next few months. When we were looking at Artform, in fact, Hunter, I was speaking with Hunter and we were talking about when we were going to launch sales. And we've seen how strong the Toronto housing market is. The resilience that we see today is incredible. And it's a testament to what you're saying about real estate as an investable asset class and how reliable it is and how stable it is. But in the heart of things, we didn't know that this would come back the way it did. Let's face it, we're all
as
happy.
quickly. And as quickly.
As quickly.
Yeah. As quickly.
We were actually, when I was speaking to Hunter, we're starting construction here late fall. Okay.
Great.
And we said to Hunter, rain or shine, we're starting construction. So what we were
fall
going
of
to
2020 cash.
This year.
Got it.
That's right.
Yep.
So we were going to do, and in Hunter's word, it was really almost unheard of in the Toronto development market, which is we were going to completely skip the sales process. We did not need a single
I love
sale
So
that.
I'll
to
stop you.
start.
So the reason Hunter was taken aback is because to say I'm starting construction in fall, typically Hunter would be cash. You can start construction in the fall because I'm confident I can sell. I can get you to that 75% threshold.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
And the 75% threshold is important to what Simos's point is, because that's when developers construction financing kind of
no,
kicks
that's
in.
when the bank will say, okay, I believe in you enough now
Exactly
to give you the money.
And to Cash's point, right now, this developer wouldn't need that. I mean, using it from a leverage perspective, that's a different story. Just as we continue this conversation, to get more information on Artform, you can open up another browser right now, like you did before. Go to reccanada.com/for sale. It's reccanada.com/for sale. You can put your name, phone number, email. Let us know if you're more interested in getting information on the 1 bedrooms, the 1 bedroom plus dens, or the 2 bedrooms and or 2 bedroom plus dens. We'll get all that information for you. For anybody who's been part of our family, you understand how it goes. Everything is time stamped. So the sooner you get in there, reccanada.com/for sale, your name is on the top of the list. And we're going to go through the strategy that is pre-construction condo investing. We're going to go right into the micro of this building, all the units, the finishes, all of that on this marathon right now. We've somewhat digitally hijacked our boy here, Cash. He's in the arena. He can't get out. It's just so you know, you guys haven't seen the behind the scenes, but I got my bouncers, Steven and Clem here. So make sure you take a second right now. Go to reccanada.com/for sale. You put your name, phone number, email, select a suite. There's a little note section if you want to leave us a note, and our team will be out to you very, very shortly with all the collateral that is needed. Cash, I want to go back really quickly to the strategy that is pre-construction condo invest, like from an investor's perspective, because on this marathon, 98% of people that are watching and listening right now, the thousands that are investors.
And they're looking to make an investment.
And they're looking into making they're actually very, very hungry to make an investment. A lot of them have already done this strategy. So we're going to speak to them later about this project and why, but the actual strategy from a macro level, what would you say to investors why you're so bullish on this type of a strategy?
Well, look, what makes investing in pre-construction so powerful or so lucrative, again, assuming you're investing in the right project and all of those factors, but what makes it really work is how much capital you're committing relative to how much investment dollars are working for you, right? What I mean by that is when you buy a unit that's $600,000, for example, and if you're working with a developer that has a flexible deposit schedule, for example, you buy the unit for $600,000 and the developer says, okay, look, 5% a year. So in the first year, you've put in $30,000.
On an average $600,000 purchase price. Yep.
But from the moment that you've put the $30,000 in, you have an investment that's $600,000 that's in the market that can be potentially appreciating. So if you earned, let's say the value of that condo in pre-construction went up 5%.
I like that you used 5 because it's simple math for me. So you're taking me back to high school. Great.
Right. So let's say the market appreciated by 5% that year. Well, your 5% appreciation is not on the 30,000 you put in, it's on 600,000. So what's 5% of 600,000? It's $30,000. So after year one, just to recap, you've put in 30,000, but you have an investment of 600,000 that's working for you. And the market had an average year, not an exceptional year, an average year, and it went up 5%. But because the 5% was on 600,000, you've now made on paper $30,000. So after year one, you look at it and say, what did I invest? What is it appreciated by? Invested 30,000 and it's appreciated by 30,000. There are very few places where you could put your money where you can have that kind of return.
100% return. And where, like,
one of those places is a casino where you go red and black.
Black and red, yeah, black and red. I usually go black, and I usually lose on the roulette table, and sometimes I go red. So let me assure you,
that buying a pre-construction condo in one of the hottest urban markets in the city or in the country, it doesn't carry the same spec as you playing at the roulette table.
Yeah.
No,
Let me
and
just
it has,
rest assured of that.
and it has risks. You know, it's
Yes.
not a risk-free investment, but again, it's real estate. If you need to do your due diligence, you need to buy in the right locations, you need to work with the right groups. I mean, I thought it was very interesting when we started talking that your team is different than some of the other teams we've spoken to, because you are very selective about the number of projects that you do. So all of the teams that are involved, from the real estate professionals to the developer to the project, you know, all of that is very important, and it's not a substitute. But if you do your due diligence and you invest with the right team in the right project, that's the type of returns that one can generate.
And I think it's very important to mention that from an investor's perspective, okay, so we talked about the numbers, and this is very conservative on that 5%. From an investor's perspective, you need to buy very early in the stage. And Cash is not going to really let us know in terms of timing on when the increases of prices will happen, because his and his team will still try to figure that out. But what we have always noticed in 15 years, that as units get allocated, there'll be increases in pricing. And so the earlier you can get on, the more money you're going to make. It's something that
development, like any other business, is a for-profit business.
Right. And so to peel back the curtains, it's why, like, if I could peel this back, it's just a blank wall back there. But to peel back the curtains on the real estate marathon in the virtual arena, and why we bring Cash and why we bring the developers and CEOs of the development company, and you've seen us do this in the past, is because we want to showcase to you the closeness that we have with the developers, because we're getting this project at a very, very early stage for you as an REC insider. And maybe Cash, you can talk about that.
It's the very first.
It's the first. Yeah.
There is no earlier stage.
We're actually going to try to keep him here all weekend, so he can't go anywhere else, just to give us units. But go ahead.
Sure. So look, you know, I think so. There's a few areas when you look at Emblem as a developer that I think are distinct and very important for anybody watching or looking at making an investment matter. The first is how well capitalized we are.
Yep.
Right. That's very important, because at the end of the day, when you look at a marketing brochure from 5 different developers, you can't tell who's well capitalized and who's not.
Absolutely right.
That is crucial.
Yeah.
The second part is, not only are we well capitalized, it's not money that's come in, let's say, from abroad, or, you know, there's different ways to be well capitalized, but being well capitalized and combining that with a 20-year experience of finding opportunity, you know, that is our formal training. That's what we have done. That's what we've built our reputation on with very successful families. So that capability and skill set to identify opportunity leads us to talking about Cooksville. You know, when we look at this project, there's a check in every single box, and I want to get into some of those details.
What are those boxes?
And you know what? I do feel like this is a perfect time to lead into Cooksville. Sure. I did want everybody to really get a deep understanding of who you are, Cash, and how you got here in our relationship. But I do feel I think you've done a great job thus far.
Thank you.
And I hope if everybody wants to pipe in, by all means, please do. If you have specific questions for Cash, answer them. But we're going to dive straight into the project. We have just a little under a half hour left.
We have 26 minutes to be exact. And this is the longest segment of the marathon because of the fact that we got Cash. We wanted to make sure that we stretched it out. There's so much to cover with this type of investment strategy, location, and building.
Sure.
Go ahead, Cash.
And I do have a small advantage, because I have spent some time with Cash during this last week where I've heard him speak. He's extremely passionate. So I'm not going to waste another second. I want you to go.
And that's very tough to shut CMOS up.
It's
I'm
impossible.
just letting you know, Cash.
So,
it's one of the toughest things that we have.
This is what I want, because this is what I've seen. I want to see why Mississauga, dive into Cooksville, specifically the location, and straight into everything that you personally have put into this project.
Sure. Yeah. So what's exciting about this project at a general level, there's 2 very important parts. One is the location. And although it's AAA and it checks all of the boxes, we haven't become overly comfortable and reliant just on location. We have equally committed to the second part, which is the quality of the building and how well designed it is. So let's talk about that. From a location perspective, Cooksville, as we've talked about, we see significant opportunity, and really, it's easy to talk. We say that and we back that up because we've made an investment in multiple sites right in Cooksville. So Artform will be the first building we release, but we will be releasing other buildings such as Artform 2 and other buildings right in that area. So we'll talk about that. But in terms of location and Cooksville itself specifically, when you look at history and you look at what defines an excellent location, there's several different factors. We're excited and proud to say all of those factors are present here. So let's talk about it. The first is the fact that it is so close to a major mobility hub, public mobility hub. So what does that mean? Well, it's not your average bus station, right? We are a few hundred meters away from the Cooksville mobility hub. So that will offer the LRT, the BRT, the GO train. So it doesn't matter how you like to use public transit, they are all there.
I like that. Yeah.
And that's very important because depending on
how
what direction,
how far from the development, Cash?
a few hundred meters,
yeah,
right?
perfect.
A few hundred meters. So that it really can't get any closer, right? So it doesn't matter which direction you're going, east, west, south, you have all forms of major public transit right there. And what we've learned in managing equities and managing money professionally in the stock market is anytime you can make an investment that the government is backing it, you tend to do very well. What I mean by that is the city has committed to investing over $100 million in the infrastructure in the Cooksville Mobility Hub, right? So you're talking about a unit investing in a building that within a few hundred meters will have really the main artery of transportation for that area. So you have that right there, a few hundred meters away. Square One you talked about. Square One with what it is today, but with also the commitment that developers and pension funds, again, smart money has come in and made to development in that space. There is no question that Square One will be the central mecca of shopping, dining, entertainment.
It already is.
It already is.
So the minute you talk about Toronto West, you're talking about Square One in Mississauga.
Yeah.
So the hub. So whoever, because I met my wife in 2006. We were married by 2009, and I moved to Oakville by 2010. So in just the 13 years that I've been in the West End, Oakville, and now I live in Britannia and Credit View in Mississauga, I've seen Mississauga change. My father-in-law, who lives at Eglinton and Highway 10, was Fields. He has pictures of Square One area when they moved there.
Well, even to put it in perspective, today, without the 14 towers and all of the development that's happening right there, today, Square One Shopping Mall is, if it's not the largest mall in Ontario, it's the second largest mall in Ontario. So you're already really fast tracking that.
Yes.
And so that is a few stops away. If you're driving, it's a 5-minute drive away.
Yeah.
So again, you look at history to get an indication of the future. What we've seen is historically, from a residential perspective, actually the price of condos and homes that are close to the action but not right in the action tend to appreciate more than the homes that are right in the action. And part of that is when you're a little bit removed from all of that, it's more conducive to creating a sense of community. Right. So whenever you want it, it's there.
Yeah.
But when you want to relax, when you want to rejuvenate and you want to rest, you could turn it off.
It's not in that hustle, but like that noise, and there's so much traffic. You're just outside of it.
Do you remember when you
want to
first
touch it, you can get to
your condo in Stafford?
King West, yeah.
So when we were downtown, before we were married, before families, etc.
We're not talking about our party days right now.
No, we're not talking about our party days.
Okay.
But think of King West when you used to live at King West. Now it's in the heart of it because it's moved out. But when you lived there, you were downtown when you wanted to.
Yeah.
And he was at almost a Liberty Village, if you think about King West. Yeah. And I remember coming to your place, and we're like, okay, we're out of it. Like we would get to Liberty Village, and like we're out of downtown. And that is Cooksville to Square One.
Absolutely. And when you wanted it to be back downtown, it was 5 minutes. Right. You're not planning a week ahead to make a commute into the city. Right. So you have Square One a few stops away on public transit or a 5-minute drive. So we talked about the location in terms of close to a major public transit hub that has all forms of transportation. We talked about Square One, close to shopping, dining, entertainment. Then from there, you look at history and what projects have done really well. And it's being part of a master planned community. This building is right in the middle of what the city has told us is going to be the master plan community. So again, you have an investment and you have the commitment of the city to see that area develop. And so we're right in the middle of a master plan community, which means that you're not going to have to wait 5 years, 8 years for other developments. It's happening as we speak. But the key is you're getting in at the first building.
Yes.
Right. And so every building that
point.
comes out after that is more expensive. I can tell you that for a fact, because the second Artform building is not going to be the same price as the first Artform building, and it will be released shortly after Artform 1.
Can we talk about Artform 1 right now? Artform, the project that we're launching right now, in terms of pricing, like your kind of average, what we're looking at. I know 80%, I believe, of the building is priced under $650,000, $600 to $650,000. So there's 80% of the units. How many units are in the building? And then just go right into the actual building, the fits, the finishes, the amenities.
Yeah. So before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about Emblem's mindset when we do a development.
Okay.
Because I think, to your point, that's where the passion and one thing you can't do is fake passion.
Correct.
Right. I think many underestimate.
You can't buy it either.
You can't buy it. And I think many underestimate how buyers and investors can tell the difference between a building that's been rushed to come to market and one where there's been a true obsession with design. And that's really the brand, the DNA of Emblem. We obsess with design. We believe that there is no substitute for great design, right? I mean, you can have a countertop that you love, but after a year, it becomes very normal.
Yeah.
What never becomes normal is exceptional design in your space. And what also never becomes normal is if your space is not well designed, right? If it's a headache to go around this part of the unit or to go around that, or when you close the door,
it's going to torment you forever.
It never becomes old. So we obsess about that, and we set out. And when you look at the floor plans of our units in this building or any other building, you will see that it works. There's a reason why when sometimes you walk into a unit that's 600 square feet, it feels smaller than a unit that was 500 square feet.
Right.
Why is that?
Right.
It's
The
more,
openness.
right? It's because the developer obsessed with how that space would feel when the buyer steps into it.
Yeah.
For us, when you look at our floor plans, you'll see there's not much hallway. You need hallways, but when you obsess and go back and forth with the architect, you can really minimize that because
a hallway takes away natural light.
And you can't use it.
And you can't use it. So yes, they're necessary in many cases, but what you were referring to, one feels bigger, one feels smaller. That is the difference between good design and bad design. It's really that simple.
Well, there's a lot of dead square footage in a lot of units and floor plans that we see. To get the floor plans that Cash is speaking about, please make sure you go right now. If you haven't, there's hundreds and hundreds of people on the real estate marathon. Make sure you take action. Remember, I spoke about in the intro that you're going to have an opportunity to initiate action. Now is the time. Go to reccanada.com/for sale. Open up another browser. It's really, really easy. You can still see our good looking faces and hear our voices. Go to reccanada.com/for sale. And our team will make sure that we get over the floor plans, the brochure, as well as the performas within the next day or two. Cash, continue, please.
Sure. So there's nothing worse than having an exceptional location and the quality of the building has been compromised, right? Or you've cut corners. So this goes back to being well capitalized. Because Emblem is so well capitalized, we can take a long-term view when we do a building. We can put a little bit more into the unit, into the building, into the amenity spaces. And when you're buying and there's several other buildings being built, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you're going to sell that investment, that's what makes the difference. That's what makes some buildings capture a higher price per square foot than the others. That's what buyers in the secondary market will say there's a premium to that. So how did we achieve that here? Well, first of all, when we acquired this site, it was slated for a 26-story building.
Okay.
We worked closely with the city. We looked at what is it that we wanted to achieve because we're doing multiple buildings in that area. What do we want that community to feel like? When you look at King West, or you look at Yorkville, some of the areas that have really the highest premiums attached to them, there's a lot of boutique buildings.
That's right.
Boutique buildings cannot be skyscrapers. So what we did is we went back, we redesigned the building, and we're coming to market with a 17-story building. That's why when you look at it from the outside, you notice a few things. One, it has a very timeless design. That timeless design is another way of saying.
Go back. You went from 26
I was going to do it too, Simon.
to 17.
Yeah, I've never seen that actually, because it's always the other way around. You get 17, you push to get 26. Get as many units from a developer's perspective. Get as many units as you possibly can. Make them all cookie cutterish and get them in and get them out, and you're gone. Yeah. To go from 26 to 17.
Answer the question why.
Brilliant.
Well,
Why?
the answer is we're not doing one building there, right? So the building we do today sets the tone of what Cooksville will become. And because we have an invested interest in other sites right in that area, we want to create that highest price per square foot feeling and sense of community. And we've done that by taking a long-term view and not coming to market with a skyscraper for the first building. Now, don't get me wrong. We are developing 40-story buildings, but not in Cooksville. Right. That area has the potential to really feel like you're really far from downtown. But like we said, you're a few minutes away from square one. So first of all, it's a boutique building. History shows us the boutique buildings tend to trade at higher prices than the tall skyscrapers. Why? Well, I think it's because the boutique buildings have more of a sense of character, right? When something becomes too big, it doesn't have the same character or charm. So design-wise, 17 stories, there's about 335 units. And when you look at the building from the outside, that commitment from Emblem to obsess with design, the brand and the line that we use, which is the mark of exceptional design. When you look at the building, again, our view as a developer is there is no greater achievement a developer can accomplish than when a buyer walks into the unit and they can't verbalize it, but they get this very strong feeling, which is it feels right. You both know from your experience in real estate how powerful that feeling is when you walk into a unit and it just feels right.
It's when you did your job. Right. It's the satisfaction you get when you sell. It doesn't matter if you sell a commercial property or residential property, but when you look at your client's eyes, you know if you did your job or not.
That's right.
And there's nothing like that feeling. It's the high that makes you go back to work every day.
Well, and even from an investor's perspective, talking about the building and the floor plans and the layouts and the fits and the finishes, tenants want to live in a place that has a little bit more upscale as well, because yes, they're tenants, and some would say, well, they're not living there for a long period of time. That's just wrong. We see it where a tenant wants to actually say, you know what, I'm going to bring my friend Clem over. I want to bring him to a nicer building with amenities, with better fits.
If I'm paying for it, it's my home.
Exactly.
So a tenant, like, and again, like we have the luxury of having an audience who understands they're a housing provider, not a slumlord. So as a housing provider, it's your responsibility to listen to your client. Your client is the tenant. If you're in the landlording business, yes, your client is the tenant. It is your duty to treat them with respect, to provide them the tools they need to live, to entertain, to have the quality of lifestyle that they deserve.
And to put it simply, whether you're buying a unit in Artform to live in it or you're buying it as an investment, there's no scenario where a commitment to quality doesn't pay off.
Correct.
Right? You live in it, you enjoy it. If it's an investment, the market puts a premium on that.
And I love what you said about the secondary market, right? The secondary market meaning if you had to resell it 5-10 years down the road, it's going to bring more value. A comment came in. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that it's not Corktown, it's Cooksville, and Corktown is in downtown Toronto or the east side, just outside
Lower East Side of Toronto.
Lower East Side. This is Cooksville in Mississauga. Just wanted to make sure I corrected.
So let's run through some of the we talked about the fuzzy stuff that feels good. It helps the investment, which is that it feels right. So how are we doing that? Well, first of all, start on the outside of the building. When you look at our building compared to many other developments, one factor that's different, and why do you get that feeling of timeless? Well, first of all, there's no stucco on our building. Right, stucco, for those that don't know, is a finish that's very commonly used in condominium development. It's very cost effective. Right. Another way of saying cheaper.
Yeah.
But
the popcorn ceiling sometimes in people's houses, it's more of a spray kind of thing, right?
So the stucco on the outside, you won't find it in our building. We're using materials, quality materials that are generally only found in buildings at a much higher price point: brick, stone, glass. Then you look at the windows.
A lot of glass. A lot of beautiful glass.
You look at the windows, large panes of glass, letting in ample natural daylight. Again, it's these type of inputs that create that feeling of, wow, it feels right. COVID really showed us, for the condominium owner, how important it is to be able to step outside and get some fresh air.
Yes.
Right. We obviously designed this building well in advance of COVID. I'm proud to say every single homeowner at Artform will have their own private balcony or private terrace.
Thank you, because sometimes it is tough from our perspective to find floor plans that have balconies, don't have balconies. We're trying to figure out what works well. To have one that they all do, it makes it a lot
much
easier.
Yeah.
It's much easier. And once again, if somebody had to choose between a unit without a balcony and a unit with a balcony, I can tell you that 100% of the time, they will choose the unit with the balcony.
Yeah, unless something had, like, interior wise, they might have had something that was
but all things being the same, if you have the option of having a place to go take a breath of fresh air, it's a no-brainer.
And we talked about this building not having any compromises. So it has the balcony. So what about the interior? Well, the interior not compromising either. So when you walk into the unit, again, you get that feeling of, wow, it feels right. Why are you getting that? Well, there's several sort of inputs that create that. For example, whether you like to cook or not, everybody appreciates a beautiful kitchen.
Sure.
We've used U31 as our interior designers. For those that don't know, they are one of the most well-regarded interior designers for some of the most notable downtown 100%. Toronto buildings. And even though they were the designer, we were still very hands-on with the design, right? It's just the way it is at Emblem. So for example, when you look at the kitchen and the backsplash, you will always or very often see tile, right? And there's nothing wrong with tile. It looks beautiful. You see the grout lines.
Yeah.
Whether you buy the smallest unit in Artform or the largest unit, our standard is full slab stone in the backsplash. That full stone slab is the same as your countertop. So you have a complete seamless design. For investors, that might be nicer than what they have in their own home, right? But the fact is that that's what creates distinction.
So what I will also tell you, that specific design feature is I just redesigned our parents' home in Greece. And when I went to see and I'm talking about last summer, when I went for a visit, when I met with the Granite people last year, and I said, what are we doing in the back? What are we doing for countertop? He goes, well, the latest thing that's happening is precisely slab on slab. So it carries, so you know the waterfall island? That carries now onto your countertop in the background.
And when viewers email you, you'll be able to send them renderings to show them that, right?
Yes.
Where you see a completely timeless design. It's very airy, very clean. You walk into the bathrooms, the showers, right? Something as simple as this makes a big difference between it feels right and it doesn't, which is what? When you look at the bathroom, the glass that separates the shower from the bathroom, most condominium projects will have the glass sitting in a metal channel. And even though the metal channel is very thin, it's enough to create a disruption between your eye, the glass, and the wall. We have in all of our units, from the smallest to the largest,
100%
frameless glass. So again, it appears like the glass is floating. So the space looks larger. Why does that matter? Because it just feels better.
Right.
And whether you're buying to live in it, it feeling great is an important part.
Yes.
Or if you're going to sell this after it's built to another investor, if it feels right, it helps the price. So that type of thinking is present throughout the entire project.
Can we speak a little bit about the amenities in the building? In terms of what's being offered for purchasers?
Sure. So again, our investment background comes in to looking at the amenity package and making sure that we think about condo fees as well. Right. Because there's no point in putting, in our view, a swimming pool in a building like this.
So no indoor swimming pool,
No swimming pool.
Thank you, because our investors know.
That's on their checkbox.
Okay, good. Well,
that's on our checkbox. It doesn't make the cut. Out of the 50 that we get, the 8 to 10 that we actually get loud about, indoor pools is not.
So it's factors like that help to keep the condo fees low. But when you look at the market, you look at the data, you look at what future investors want. What do they value? They value convenience. They value safety.
Yes.
Right. So this building, Artform, will have a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week concierge and security all in one.
Okay.
Right. So again, there's no point in paying the condo fees for something you're not going to use. This will provide utility that otherwise wouldn't be there. We have lots in the way of co-working space, right? And the co-working spaces, not only is there more than one co-working space, what we intentionally, going back to our obsession with design, we did not want you to use one co-working space on a Saturday and then use the other co-working space on a Sunday, and it feels like it's the same room with different furniture placement, right? We set out to create its different emotion being evoked in you, to set out different creativity, different way of thinking when you're in the space. So what did we do? We studied the psychology of color. Again, this comes back to the passion that we have when we do a building. Because if you look at our co-working spaces, you'll see one co-working space uses very light pastel-like colors, because the feeling, whether you realize it or not, that evokes in you, compared to another co-working space that we have, which is darker, richer textures and colors, that evokes a completely different emotion.
One's
So
going to be a creative calm. The other one's going to be, let's get some work done, aggressive.
Absolutely. So when you use these spaces, it really enhances the living experience, because they feel like different spaces, not like different rooms with different furniture placement. So there's that. When we look at the exterior amenity space, not one, but two outdoor exterior amenity spaces. Again, whether you live in the building or it's for investment, buyers need outdoor space. And this site is situated right beside a creek. So we really use that to accentuate the design. What we did was we worked with the Conservation Authority to redo some of the exterior areas beside the creek. So when you're sitting in your exterior space, you will have lots of green, tree-lined perimeter, hear the water in the creek. It creates very much a backyard feeling. Again, uncommon in most condominiums. So when you look at it, again, whether you're going to live in it or it's an investment, how do I make sure I do well in what I'm investing in or where I'm going to live? And it's factors that create distinction among everything else that's out there. And
That's
that
huge.
mindset is present in every facet of this project.
I love the fact personally myself as an investor, and the fact that I work with a lot of our clients, how affordable you made this investment, not only from the deposit structure, down payment structure, which we'll touch on, and the fact that it is extended, something that Hunter and I spoke about, just before us three right now, is that the 20% as an investor, you need to make sure that you understand that it's going to be paid out in installments, okay? However, the purchase price, the pricing of it, to have 80% of the building under that $650,000 purchase price, how were you able to accomplish that?
Look, it's efficient design. It's being well capitalized. It's knowing that we're doing more than one building, right? When you do one building, you have to hit a triple.
Yes.
If not a home run.
Yes.
When you're doing multiple buildings, you look at it as an overall investment.
Yes.
And that allows you to be able to take a longer term view, which is a major benefit to buyers in the early buildings like this one at this stage.
So I hope everyone gets the pattern. Cash was using the word long-term view. I've been using the word kind of macro, buy and hold, patience.
Does today's word of marathon maybe have something to do with it?
Exactly, because real estate is a marathon, and we're seeing it play out right now as well. Simos, you have something to say, my man?
What I have to say is people need to understand, and again, like this is a pick. I definitely approved it, and I brought it into our house.
Well, we decided we're going to purchase one there because of the upside.
Then we sat down and had a full discussion. And in this case, it really speaks to the last 6 months of our lives and our pattern. We started the year with launching a site in Midtown Toronto. We started with Times Group's 65 Broadway. We carried over and we saw a break in the market. We saw COVID happen. We saw everything, but we also saw trends in the marketplace.
Yes.
We also, because of all the feedback that we gave and all the insight into the marketplace, we decided that we're going to be more diligent than ever at this point. I don't care what my personal predictions might be. I'm not going to make my predictions your way of life. As somebody who, if the REC group, myself and you, are people who have an influence over our audience decision, we took that responsibility a little bit more. We got more conservative than ever. And if you look at the last 3 projects in the last 90 days that we've shared, whether it's at Islington and Queensway, major Kipling, Kipling hung. If you want to look at Westport and Port Credit, it's literally, you can throw a stone at the GO train station, which is a direct into Union Station. And now you're looking at Artform, which is a stone's throw away from Mississauga's biggest mobility hub, which is Cooksville Station, which is LRT, GO Train, etc. We actually missed its proximity to the University of Toronto Mississauga campus, its proximity to Trillium Hospital, which is literally 4 minutes south of it. So when we go down all the check boxes, because we're kind of closing now.
Yes.
So I want to remind everyone that we're so lucky to have Cash here to share his passion about the building specifically. But I don't want anybody to forget the reason we see 50 to 90 some years projects a year, 50 to 90 projects a year, and we pick 8 to 10 is because Cash is here because his project is lit. For lack of a better word, it's the coolest project that we've seen, one of the coolest projects in Mississauga. It's going to be well built. They don't have to wait 6 months or 2 years for zoning. They're not going to be compromised by not having enough money to get into the project. So we're not going to have a story of failure in return deposits.
Well,
we're going to have a project that's complete.
Construction starting in fall, which is huge. The deposit structure and the way that you can invest in this, it is 5% kind of every single year, and you'll get all those details. You do need to go to reccanada.com/for sale, and what will happen is you'll put in your contact info, you'll let us know what kind of units you're looking into that you're comfortable with, just so you know, for all of the investors, this investment already checks the box from REC from the perspective of that the rental income will cover your expenses. We're so confident and bullish on this investment, this project, that myself and Simos and REC are going to be adding on our incentive of renting it out for you for 2 years and managing it for you for 2 years at no cost. That only happens when we truly are this bullish and comfortable, and we're very, very happy with the whole process of the development. And so it's going to be a 2-year tenant placement at no cost and 2-year property management at no cost. But to get all that information, guys, you do need to go to reccanada.com/for sale. Before I go through what's happening next on this marathon, I want Cash, you to close it off for us, because we are so humbled to have you here.
Thank you. And you know, I think that's incredible that not only are you both talking about a project you believe in, but you're putting your skin in the game by buying units in the building.
We believe in you, and we believe in
Thank you. And also the 2-year guarantee on the rent, right? I mean, that it's easy to get excited about something. It's a whole nother world to actually back it with putting your own assets and your own
we're putting our staff on it, because we're going to be managing it. We're going to be finding the tenants, right?
So just to close out on the project, I started off by saying this building does not have a single compromise. And what I mean by that is, let's just summarize. On the location, you're a few hundred meters away from the Cooksville mobility hub. It's viewed as exciting if you have the GO train close to you. Right. This has the GO train, LRT, BRT, all major forms right there. Then you have shopping, entertainment, dining, Square One, right? The largest or second largest mall in all of Ontario, with all of those amenities around it, a few stops away, less than a 5-minute drive. Right. From there, you look at the location and you see that it's right in the middle of a master plan community. What does that mean? It means not only have we as a developer made a commitment to building around it, the city has designated that as a high development area in the coming years.
And other developers are going to come in.
Absolutely.
And we share your vision. Of course.
We know, because we're competing with them on land.
Love it.
So then you have University of Toronto Mississauga campus, 15 minutes away. You have Sheridan College, you have Trillium Hospital, all right there. So whatever facet you're looking at, the location puts a check. You don't need all of those facets present to see a successful location. It's obviously exciting when you could hit all of those boxes. Now, then you go to the quality of the building, right? As we talked about, there's a obsession with design with every emblem project. We talked about some of the details of the building from the outside to the inside to the amenity spaces. You can see there's been no corners cut on our commitment when we put our name on something. And then from there, you go to accessibility, right? We talked about price. You know, we're coming to market with our introductory pricing being very, very competitive. And what's as important, I would actually say it's even more important in price, is the deposit schedule.
Yes.
Right. So the fact that it's 5% deposit per year makes it so accessible, because you could actually invest in a condo that costs, you look at two options. One costs you less, but has a less flexible deposit schedule. You have another building that costs more, but has a more flexible deposit schedule. For most investors, for more buyers, it's more accessible to buy the more expensive unit with less deposit. Here, we've hit both. Yes. We've made it very affordable in the introductory pricing we're coming to market with, and we've bundled that with a very flexible deposit.
And we did get the terms that we needed. As always, all of you are very, very educated in this space, and you've heard us say this a million times. If you are, because there are quite a few new people here, I do want to remind you that nothing ever that we put through on as an investment opportunity doesn't have the incentives of the being assignable as a unit, of having the right to lease it during occupancy, of having capped development charges, and of course, when you are going to be looking at this, so let's say you do put your hand up, you do want to go through this during the due diligence period that is literally handled by Jas and our director of sales, who the beautiful Laura that you met earlier. You're going to be put through to the lawyers that look at every word. And I know the developer is here right now. We're kind of speaking of the due diligence.
Well, it's actually a great segue, Simos, because right after lunch, okay, we're going to actually have Laura come on, and we're going to be speaking about what we look for when it comes to due diligence. So I do want to move the marathon along. Cash, you're amazing.
Thank you.
I hope we did you justice.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Both. Thank you.
Simos, thank you for joining me as well. So we are now going to lunch. We're not even halfway there yet. I got a lot of energy to bring. I hope you guys are still going to continue to join us. Let's see who's going to be the marathoners. We're going to be back at 1:40 for lunch. What time is it now, team? I've kind of, it's 12:50. So we're going to be back exactly in 50 minutes. We're going to be back at 1:40. While we leave you for lunch, the marathon still continues. I've been saying this during the first break. It's going to happen at lunch. It's going to happen in the next break. It's going to happen during dinner. But it's actually quite timely. I think you should, as you enjoy your lunch, take a listen to the Pre-Construction Masterclass podcast episode. It's one of the it's one of the biggest feedbacks we've ever got on one of our podcast episodes. It's myself and actually Laura going through this type of investment as well as the due diligence. But make sure to come back at 1:40 because you're going to get to see Laura in the flesh once again, sitting with me here in the arena. I'll see you soon. However, make sure you go to reccanada.com/for sale to get all the details. Love you, and I'll see you back at 1:40.
Thanks, Jas.